Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. Thanks to my opponent attacking early, I was able to actually get this video done before the entire round was over with, so you don't get to see the prize screen, but it's not exciting anyways because we don't get anything for the prizes for winning a match, so instead I just thought I'd throw it up here and then I could have the weekend off, except for people asking me what to do in territory wars, which happens and is just fine. This match is the second one of the round, so it's the semifinals. I was able to get a big bounce back win in the previous episode, which was exciting for me, but my opponent this time was also really good. They had more GP than I did, but there was a lot of stuff that I noticed that my opponent definitely did not have like this huge advantage over me. The most notable of all was mods. We had actually pretty close to even mods, and gear for that matter. I had actually more gear 13 than my opponent, which is extremely rare. That almost never happens. But that's what did happen this time, and I will absolutely take it. In addition, my Darth Revan and Bastila are both faster than my opponents, so I held that advantage, which is huge. Now, I happened to be in extremely slow traffic, just stuck there. Denver is horrible for traffic, if you didn't know, which I don't know if you would imagine that or not, but just so you're aware. And so I was able to watch my opponent do some of their attacks. I didn't pay like really close attention, but I did get some screenshots. I was mostly at a complete standstill when this was happening, so I was just watching, took some screenshots. They were able to full clear me up to the point that you see right now without any fails, and I was feeling a little bit nervous, but Emperor Palpatine did end up taking, I think, 9 banners away from my opponent. They only got 51, and then they failed against General Grievous. Afterward, they destroyed Nightsisters with almost full points, and then finally they started working on Jango, and this Jango team is actually the first bounty hunter team I've ever put on defense at any point, so the fact that it even got one defense was really exciting. And then they actually ended up getting another defense, even though Boba was then the lead. Apparently, like, they ran into Mace Windu or something, and then my opponent attacked, and destroyed that squad, and General Grievous was attacked a couple more times, wasn't killed, and was just completely left there. So I wasn't really sure what was going on in terms of like what to expect my opponent to do. It really looked like maybe they'd run out of steam, and so that was a really nice confidence boost going into these matches. So even if I was able to even if I wasn't able to get a full clear without fail, then I would be able to hopefully still be able to full clear and therefore win. One of my more observant watchers yesterday, on my video yesterday, noticed that I kept saying that my Badstila was faster than theirs, and that was true, but they noted that my opponent hadn't actually used Badstila on their Darth Revan team on defense, so that was observant of them. I did notice that, and then I forgot to tell you guys about it, so I'm telling you now that in this squad as well, my opponent did not use Badstila. They used her elsewhere, and so we're just kind of looking at this squad that's really good on defense, but I mean, it's not going to beat any other Darth Revan teams, and so that's kind of a departure from what we've seen in the past. And I mean, 2 in a row makes it kind of a trend, I feel like, especially against people in kind of high-level guilds. And so be on the lookout for that. I think that might end up being a thing, especially once we get a new meta and Darth Revan isn't like the top dog anymore. It's kind of like you can put Bastila, light side Bastila, on a team and have her be a legitimate amazing leader in her own right. That does happen sometimes. So my next round was against Qi'ra and Nest, basically, along with a bunch of resilient, annoying characters, and so I use First Order. This has kind of been my go-to lately. I mean, if there's Nest, First Order does well against them. If there's any of these taunting tanks or revives or whatever, First Order has the right flexibility to be able to do that and counter them well. And so that's what I was looking at doing, obviously. So the goal is to take out Vander here, and you know, if you can take him out first, then Captain Han is going to try reviving him if he can. But kind of the key is to take out Captain Han as quick as you can after that. And I kind of didn't do it the right way a little bit. What I should have done was taken Captain Han down in health a little bit. You know, like maybe not quite to this dead state, but you know, you want to take him down, so then once you kill Vander, then you can take Captain Han down and you don't have to worry about the revive shenanigans starting up. Now, one interaction that I'm still trying to get used to by doing this countless times is the fact that you want to stun Nest, but then you want to like not do any AoEs, or if you do any damage to L3, she will just cleanse Nest, and then Nest will just be good to go. And so I haven't really perfected that interaction yet, trying to make sure that my squad was actually, you know, not messing with L3. I mean, you have to mess with L3, so I don't know. Maybe the best idea is just to stun her and then kind of just leave her alone or something. So, you know, see, I've stunned Nest here, and then Nest is just good. That's not necessarily a thing that I've paid a ton of attention to in the past, but it is something that I should be paying attention to, quite frankly, and so that's what, you know, I'm going to start doing. We absolutely do need to be paying attention to character kits and all of that. So, anyways, Nest is alone now, obviously, and so the goal here is obviously to take her out. I've sped up the video because it's I go almost down to the wire. You can see that First Order officer has pretty low protection, and so I'm trying to get his protection up without killing Nest. And so sometimes I'm even using First Order officers ShaakT to reduce turn meter, just so that I can have more healing time. And really, I mean, it's important to get as many banners as you can. And even though my opponent had kind of played to a state of banners not mattering, like I needed to basically win it out, like beat all of the teams, or I needed to or I would, you know, I basically would lose if I couldn't get to his point, you know, where he had made it, which was, you know, one team left on defense. I would lose if I couldn't get to that point. I would win most likely if I could. So like banner efficiency is not necessarily something I needed to do in this match, but I decided that I would just you know, really practice and try to get as many banners as I could. I got 59 there, which, you know, 59 is not what I normally want with First Order. You want the full 60, but that's okay. 59 is okay, especially in this circumstance. I forgave myself quite quickly. The back Zune was great news. It was Emperor Palpatine. I found the missing Badstila. She stuck out really well because she was Gear 13, and the rest of those guys are all Gear 12 because they're not worth putting Gear 13 on at this point. And then the other team was like Rogue One with some Gear 11s mixed in there. So I knew I had a team available there. This was actually a really fun match because my 5-year-old we were both just like laying in bed together right before I put him to bed, and he was giving me advice the entire time. And here in this zone, you know, I told him, okay, buddy, well, we're not going to beat the other teams right now. We're going to go for this top zone so that we can see what the back zone is. And you know, he watches me play a lot, and we kind of talk about the game, and you know, he really likes to be involved. And so he offered the advice. I was like, well, I could potentially use Padme on one of these teams, and he said, "Oh, Daddy, don't do that. Please, just wait until you get to the back zone, because if there's Nightsisters in the back zone, you will not have a team that can actually beat Nightsisters. You need Padme." And so, sage advice from my 5-year-old. I decided to follow it. I decided to take the Jedi Revan team with Bastila as the lead, and my 5-year-old actually even said, "Oh, Daddy, remember your special weapon, your secret weapon? Like, use that. You have to use Bastila lead." And so that's what I did. I was actually kind of thinking of going with Jedi Revan instead, but I think that this is actually probably the best lead, to be honest, against one Gear 13 General Grievous. I'm not really sure. I think maybe if I escalate my gear as well, like if I start putting Gear 13 on Jedi Revan, on Grandmaster Yoda, Jolie, all those guys, maybe then it's the best move to put to keep taking Bastila. But I do know that I've really struggled in the past to take Bastila against these higher geared droids, and so I was kind of blessed in this case because my opponent was using it like a Gear 11 droidica, and then the rest of them were just Gear 12 except for Grievous, who was 13. And so they're not going to do as much damage. They don't have as much hit points, of course, and so I could kind of just experiment a little bit. And one thing that you may notice in watching this is that I have been really targeting hitting General Grievous with Grandmaster Yoda's special to reduce his turn meter. And so I've done that a few times. That really mitigates a lot of the damage that Grievous can do, just because when he goes because I've killed a guy, you can't prevent that really, but not with this team anyways, but you can prevent him from taking turns naturally. So if you're taking a long time to take out one of the droids, if you can reduce his turn meter, you're limiting him to only taking about 4 total turns. And his AoE does hurt, but 4 is survivable. If he starts getting like 5 or 6 or whatever, then it starts really hurting. Now, one Jedi I actually really like with this team is Hermit Yoda. I love that he can help you regenerate protection, and he heals, and he does a lot of good. And honestly, like, Jedi Revan has just kind of become my Grievous killing squad. Like, you could almost just, give them that job title. And so, the time has come now. Like, we kind of just need to start optimizing that squad specifically for General Grievous. And I know that the whole state of everything is going to change once clones get their last member, and they're probably going to be the new meta team. And so, in that case, maybe it's not wise to really start, really super optimizing the team for General Grievous specifically, because maybe Jedi Knight Revan is the only team that can beat clones in this format. But speaking of clones, I got to face another clone group. Now that they're reworked, everyone's putting them on defense, and this one was a really interesting take on it. I like this one a lot better than my last round opponent. My last round opponent put R2 there instead of ShaakT. They put Rex lead, they had Barriss and everything, but then ShaakT instead of R2 makes a lot more sense. She's giving everyone a lot of counters, and I think that that's great, except against the Traya squad it's maybe not the best, because all those counters actually do a huge amount of damage to the clones themselves, because they have high hit point pools. And so when you're asking them to constantly counter, they're just knocking their health down constantly. And so really taking Traya against the squad is money in the bank. I mean, I don't really know, maybe at like the super high gear levels, like Gear 13 clones have legs, but at this point, I mean, and this is Rex lead, and so I don't really know what it looks like under ShaakT lead. She does a lot of interesting things that kind of doesn't happen with Rex lead. But so you can see here, I'm kind of debating what to do with Nihilist. Now, if I annihilate one of the other clones that isn't fives, then Rex or Echo both just kind of they come back to full health, like at fives gets annihilated instead for some reason. I'm not really sure. And so I obviously messed up there. I hit Echo with just a hit with Darth Revan, and then it didn't even kill him. I was just hoping to trigger the Echo death so that fives would disappear, and then Echo would be stuck with however many hit points, and then I could just annihilate after that. And that was kind of sneaky of me. I think that was actually a good move, but the Nihilist just didn't do enough damage, even though Echo was like on a sliver of health. So luckily the whole game plan here wasn't just hinging completely on trying to take out that one move, use that one move. So that was fortunate, but at this point I have to say that at least pre whatever crazy event we're going to have, I think that clones are severely disadvantaged against Traya. And people were kind of saying before Grand Arena was going on that like Traya is kind of on her way out. She's not meta anymore. There's a lot of teams that beat her. She can't hang. And I just have to laugh about that, because you can see like she's the most in-demand character now in the entire meta because of how many teams she counters. She just does so many good things, and it's not just Traya. Nihilist does his part in countering certain things, but in general, I mean, Traya is just so good. I mean, she counters so much of the random stuff that we keep seeing today. And so I did end up getting the win. I didn't get full banners, and actually I was starting to feel, like quasi-concerned, because I kept dropping banners. That was kind of a common theme in my loss in the finals a couple matches ago, was I won all my matches, but I kept dropping, 3, 4, 5 banners here and there. And so that's not the desired outcome, of course. That's, you want to make sure that you're making the most of your banners. So like even dropping one with first order, I mean, that can cost you a win, obviously. That has happened. I've lost matches before by 1 point, and I should say I've lost match before by 1 point. It's only been one time, but that's enough to make you never want that to happen again. So when I went to this back zone, I saw Nightsisters, and my 5-year-old was ecstatic, and he made sure that I knew that he had told me so. And I was proud of him for his excellent tactical acumen. And we moved on, and he was so excited, though. He's like, okay, now you have to beat Daka 3 times. And that's true. Like, you want to take out Daka, and Nightsisters, this match can last a little bit of time, but Nightsisters are severely disadvantaged against Padme. And one thing I will note, though, I've been using Barriss lately for Padme just because I really like having the flexibility of putting her with Padme so that I can put 3PO with Commander Luke. And really, I mean, like, Commander Luke, in theory, like, he's kind of my backup panic squad to be able to beat clones. I don't really know if that's really going to work super well, but with all the exposes that are happening and their ability to just kind of do a lot of things to clones, like just a huge amount of damage, basically, I think that squad is probably has legs against clones. I just haven't used it yet. I think Traya is too obvious to use against clones at this point, but in the circumstance that my opponent leaves both clones and Geonosians on defense, then my Commander Luke is going to be my backup Geonosian killer. So I realize that that's almost not even related to what's going on the screen right now, but it is, in the sense that Barriss makes all that possible, because Luke without 3PO is not going to be able to counter those teams. Luke needs 3PO to boost his damage. All those extra exposes really makes that team extremely powerful, as opposed to like, oh yeah, well, it beats B teams really well. And so at this point, you know, Barriss, I'm glad that I finally got over myself and put some gear on Barriss and put her Zetas on. It took me a while to finally just decide to pull the trigger, but I'm glad I did. It's really added extra functionality to my teams, and now I'm able to kind of diversify and figure out what the best combo is. I also have the option to take Barriss with Commander Luke, but even though they're all gear 13, I think they're kind of too squishy to really benefit from her. Like, I think if a squad could really just take them out fast, take out the Commander Luke squad fast, Barriss is probably not going to be able to save them. So that is an option, though. I've thought about it, trying to use those 4 plus Barriss against like Geonosians, but if I did that, I really don't know who I would take with Padme. I mean, I guess insert random Galactic Republic character here probably does just fine, but I decided to take my Commander Luke squad against the Emperor Palpatine team, and really, like, the main thing I wanted to do here was take out Badstila first. So all these teams that were left, they were all teams that I could absolutely beat. My opponent had Multi-Zeta Phoenix, which is a squad that's it can be over or underestimated, but it's not like, it's not just a super duper impossible squad to beat in the back zone. And so really the biggest challenge was this Emperor Palpatine team with Zeta Barriss, and you know, Badstila was absolutely, she was pretty quick, and I mean, the awesome thing about her being quick is that Han just doesn't care. So he was able to get the stun off, he was able to just take her out basically, and after that it was just a matter of mop up. Emperor Palpatine doesn't do too well against that team, so anyways, at this point, I remembered that if I cleared 2 zones, then I would get the feat to be able to move on to the next one. So clearing the zones, you don't want to over clear, so to speak. Like, if you clear another zone more than you're supposed to, like you're not necessarily going to get credit for it in the next one. Like, you know how the feats have 2 stages? If you're 1 away from getting the feat, but then you clear 2 zones, you only get credit for clearing 1 zone until you go in, claim the feat prize, and then go back and clear the other zone. So just a word to the wise, keep that in mind. I was excited to see Rogue One. I haven't really seen him for a long time, and then I realized I didn't really have like a specific team to counter them. Like, I wasn't that intimidated, but at the same time, I really didn't know how to approach them. I decided that my hyperspeed troopers would probably do the trick, but I wasn't really quite 100% sure on that. So I actually focus fired bays all the way down, and I don't know if you're actually like supposed to be able to do that or not, but I did it, and it worked out. So you know, and the AoEs just kind of blew them away. This was just a gimme round. It wasn't that much of a challenge. I don't know how more equally modded and equally geared troopers would face against them. I actually think that you're kind of at a disadvantage because Rogue One have a lot of specifically anti-Imperial synergies, but as it stood, like, Jyn didn't even have her Zeta, which isn't like super good, but it was not an optimized team. I got the sense that my opponent just needed 1 extra team to throw in there, and they had like Scarif Rebel Pathfinder that can be really annoying and could potentially cost someone some banners. So that's my guess is what they did. So when I was scrolling through the teams I had left, I had Phoenix left, my own Multi-Zeta Phoenix on offense. I had Ewoks left, and I had Jedi Training Rey. And my 5-year-old was insistent that I take Phoenix, and I was insistent that he could go to bed right now if he kept insisting that, and eventually I won, because that's how that works. So this is what happened. I probably really should have just done it for him, but if anyone is familiar with Phoenix on Phoenix, especially with all the Zetas, like, it can be extremely miserable. And so instead I just took my solid, Jedi Training Rey control team and just went for it. And this match really isn't equal. Like, maybe I've heard you can actually take out Rey teams with a good Phoenix squad, and I don't necessarily doubt it, because the AI doesn't play optimally, but on defense, Phoenix just really struggles against Jedi Training Rey, especially when all of the characters are faster and they're all hitting hard, and it's just kind of a mess, really. Like, there's not much threat the Phoenix holds to Jedi Training Rey, except for things like, like they could have a mass counter that messes you up, but if you're doing your job and stunning them and putting daze on them and doing all the other things, like putting stealth on your own team so that when you attack they can't actually hit back, like this match is really easy. Like, it, you take out Sabine first just because she's the one who can do the most damage, and after that, like, all their DPS is gone besides Zeb. And honestly, maybe I didn't give Zeb enough credit. I probably should have hit him a little bit sooner. So moving on, if I ever get that matchup again, which I almost doubt, then I will try to do that. So in the end, I ended up with 1903 banners, which is actually not that great for my own standards. I want to be over 1910 if at all possible. And I know that's not always possible, but that's the hope. So my defense has changed a little bit. I put Emperor Palpatine and the bugs up front, in front of Grievous and Asajj. And my reasoning was, I just wanted to overload what my opponents would use. Like, I wanted them to just, like, waste Traya right away, just, like, reflex waste her, and then after that, like, she wouldn't be able to help with other teams. And so another use of Traya would be against Nest. And then so in the back behind there, I dubbed this the clone zone, which is hilarious, I realize, just because Jango and Boba are also clones, or at least of the same genetic material. And it's always a little disappointing when your awesome clone team doesn't get a defense. But the Jango team, which is the first time I'd ever put them on defense, got 2 extra defenses, which is great. My opponent was actually a great sport, and they reached out to me and said that they like my defense. I'll make sure that they get their hands on this video just for feedback purposes. And anyways, that's basically it. Like, where I'm in the finals now again. I'm in the position to fail, and let's hope I don't. My next round opponent is looking like they'll probably have a massive advantage in mods and in total gear, so I'm not necessarily looking forward to that, but hopefully we can have a bounce back round, in terms of, like, I lost the last round just because by virtue of losing the finals, and then hopefully I can just win this round and move forward. I can only really afford 2 total losses before I'm basically, like, trying to get lucky making it into Kyber. So if I can reduce my losses, that would be obviously best. And anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.